Most dog owners believe loving a dog is about the big things: expensive food, long walks, buying the best toys. But according to behavioral research, those things are not what your dog notices the most. In fact, there are 7 tiny moments that happen in your house every single day that shape how deeply your dog feels connected to you. Moments so small that most people barely notice them. And here's the surprising part. Most dog owners are already doing these things, just slightly wrong. Let's start with the first one, a behavior so simple that it lasts only a few seconds, yet it triggers a biological reaction found almost nowhere else in nature. When your dog looks into your eyes, something extraordinary is happening. In 2015, researchers in Japan studied 30 dog owner pairs while they interacted normally. They measured the level of oxytocin, the hormone responsible for bonding, trust, and affection, and they found something remarkable. When dogs and humans held gentle eye contact, oxytocin increased in both of them at the same time. In other words, simply looking into your dog's eyes creates a chemical bond. But the researchers didn't stop there. They repeated the experiment with wolves raised by humans. The wolves looked at their handlers, but the oxytocin loop never activated, which means this bonding mechanism evolved specifically between dogs and humans. No other species shares this with us. So the next time your dog looks at you, don't glance away. Hold that gaze for just a few seconds. Because in that moment, your brain and your dog's brain are literally syncing together. And once you understand that, the next behavior becomes even more powerful. Most people talk to their dogs in a high-pitched, exaggerated voice. You know the one. The voice you probably wouldn't use in public. But it turns out that voice is doing something important. Researchers at the University of York tested how dogs respond to different types of speech. They played recordings using warm, affectionate tone with dog-related words, warm tone with meaningless content, and normal adult speech. The dogs only approached the speaker in one situation, when the warm tone was paired with words that actually meant something to them. Later, brain scans confirmed something even more fascinating. Dogs process language and tone in different parts of their brain, just like humans do.
Come here!
The reward center only activates when both the tone and the words are positive at the same time, which means your dog isn't just hearing your voice, they're interpreting the entire emotional message behind it. Your dog is listening more carefully than most people realize. But the moment when they listen the most happens right when you walk through the door. For years, dog training advice repeated the same instruction: ignore your dog when you come home. The idea was simple. If you stay calm, your dog will stay calm too. But a survey of nearly 2,000 dog owners discovered something unexpected. Dogs with separation problems were actually more likely to have owners who used low-energy greetings. In other words, ignoring your dog may actually make the problem worse. Another study measuring hormones during reunions found something important. Only one type of greeting kept oxytocin elevated after the interaction ended: physical touch combined with a warm voice. So when you come home, try something different. Kneel down, say their name. Let them feel that you noticed them, because your dog has been waiting for that moment longer than you realize. But if you want to make your dog even happier, the next change doesn't happen inside the house. It happens during your walks. Most walks are designed for human efficiency: a fixed route, a fixed pace, and the dog walking right beside us. But from your dog's perspective, that kind of walk is actually quite boring. Dogs experience the world primarily through scent. So researchers decided to compare 2 types of walks. One group of dogs practiced structured heel walking. The other group was allowed to explore freely, following scents wherever they wanted. After 2 weeks, scientists ran a cognitive bias test. This test measures whether an animal interprets uncertain situations optimistically or pessimistically. The results were striking. Dogs allowed to explore with their noses became more optimistic. The heel-walking dogs showed no emotional change at all. The time spent walking was identical. Only the freedom to smell made the difference. So on at least one walk each day, try letting your dog lead the adventure.
Hi
you might
there,
walk less
buddy.
distance, but your dog will come home mentally
Who's a
satisfied.
Good dog?
And interestingly, the next behavior builds on that same idea of emotional reward. There's a common myth that you should always win games like Tug-of-War. Otherwise, your dog will think they're the boss. But research tested this idea directly with golden retrievers. Some dogs always won the game. Others always lost. After dozens of sessions, researchers measured behavior changes, and the dominance theory simply didn't hold up. Winning or losing had no effect on dominance behavior, but something else did change. Dogs that occasionally won the game became more attentive to their owners afterwards, especially the playful ones. Another study found that dogs whose owners used praise and affection during play had lower stress levels afterwards. But when owners became overly strict or disciplinary during games, cortisol levels increased, which tells us something important. Play isn't about control, it's about connection. And connection becomes even stronger when training is done the right way. Most people think food is the most powerful reward for dogs, but brain imaging studies tell a more complicated story. In one experiment, dogs were trained to associate two symbols. One symbol meant food, the other meant praise from their owner. When researchers scanned their brains, many dogs showed equal activation for both rewards, and some dogs actually showed more activation for praise than food. Those same dogs, when given the choice, ran towards their owner instead of the food bowl, which means affection can become a primary reward. The trick is consistency. Try doing 3 minutes of simple training before meals. Nothing complicated. Sit, stay, come. Give clear feedback and positive praise. Over time, your dog begins to associate you, not just the food, with reward. And that deepens the bond far more than most people realize. But the final habit might be the most surprising of all, because it requires doing absolutely nothing. A study with newly sheltered dogs tested 3 situations: a person actively playing with the dog, a person petting the dog, and a person simply sitting quietly in the same room. All 3 reduced stress hormones in the dogs almost equally, which means your presence alone can be calming. But a more recent study discovered something even more interesting. Dogs don't just react to what we do, they react to how we feel. Researchers tracked stress levels in both dogs and their owners, and the strongest predictor of dog stress wasn't the owner's job, it was something called mental rumination. When owners couldn't mentally leave work behind, their dog's cortisol levels increased too. Your dog reads your emotional state far more accurately than most people realize. So sometimes the most meaningful thing you can do is sit down, put your phone away, and simply be present, because your dog is already paying attention to what's happening inside your mind. None of these habits require expensive gear, no complicated training routines, no hour-long schedules, just small moments, a few seconds of eye contact, a warm greeting, a walk where your dog leads, a game where they sometimes win. Your bond with your dog isn't built in dramatic gestures. It's written quietly into the chemistry of the brain, in oxytocin, dopamine, and cortisol, and it grows or slowly fades in the ordinary moments most people overlook. So here's a question. Which one of these are you going to try first? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy learning the hidden psychology behind dog behavior, make sure to subscribe for more.